Hi, I'm Kristin Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Hi, everybody. We are going to do another episode of Give Me Your Questions. So here we go. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was, this is just kind of a bizarre thing that has been happening since we started this podcast. So in my mind, I was like, yes, I'd love to rewatch Sex and the City because I haven't ever rewatched it, right? And that'll be super interesting because it was a long, long time ago, almost 30 years ago. And I really had no idea that people were going to be paying so much attention to what I said. So there's been these crazy headlines, and my mother has called me and asked me about them because her friends talked to her about them, and it's just been a little bit overwhelming, I have to say. And I just thought, you know what? This is like 30 years ago. I did not think anybody was going to care. I mean, I thought the fans would care, and you guys do care, thank goodness. And I feel like you guys know the truth of what I'm saying. But sometimes I see these headlines and I do get a little concerned about people who maybe see the headlines, but don't necessarily listen to the podcast, that they might not have the right understanding of what I was saying. So just some of the weird ones, you know, when I said the cult-like rules. I don't know that I said rules, but I definitely said the word cult. And of course, is a headline now that the producers forced us to do things. This is so not the case, you guys. Oh my gosh. This was that Pat Field have a very strong vision. And that's what we love about Pat Field. And that's why we hired Pat Field. And my fashion sense was like non-existent, right? So I was just really happy to be told what was cool and what was in. It wasn't rules. The producers didn't care one way or the other. I mean, they cared that the show looked great, but I mean, I don't think they cared about the specifics of, you know, how we made it look great or whatever. They were not involved. So there was no producers making us do any rules or whatever. Anyway, that's one. Then the other is, you know, the whole, you know, horrible mistake I made about saying the word forced when I was laughing about Michael Patrick and me having to flash my boob in the year 2000. So I laugh now. I don't ever want one of my good friends to get hurt because of something stupid that I said. And that's what I feel like happened because I said a word that they could take out of context, and they did. And you guys on the social media really cheered me up. But once I went on the Today Show, because you were like, who took Kristin out of context? And I really appreciate that. And I don't know if you're aware, but sometimes when you look at comments, it can be dark, and sometimes it can really make you feel so much better. And that's what you guys do for me on my Instagram page and on the podcast Instagram page. And thank you. Keep it coming, because sometimes I really, really need it. And then also people still want to talk about this poor actor that I lend money to. And again, I really, really just wanted to say, don't lend money to people that you're involved with. That was my only point. Like, it just changes the dynamic. It makes it kind of weird, or it has the potential at least to make it kind of weird. And I never will say this person's name. And I feel really badly that I even opened that box up. So those are the ones that come to mind. But honestly, just in general, the whole idea that people are like, creating these headlines is still, I'm just trying to get my mind around it because I just thought we could just talk freely. You know what I mean? And I do feel with you guys that are listening that I am just talking freely, and I'm really trying to keep that going. I just don't want any of my friends to get hurt, you know? Okay, so that's the end of that. Now, we have some other questions from people on from our Instagram. Is that right? Easton is here.
Hi, Kristin. This is so fun. Thank you for having me back.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, these come in from Instagram, carrier pigeon. Some people just banging on the door, yelling them through the window.
I'm glad you were there to listen to what they had to say.
I wrote everything down on my steno pad. So we're so excited for season 3 of And Just Like That. I am part of the horde that is so excited about this show.
That's nice.
So a lot of these questions are about And Just Like That.
Cool.
This person says, seeing the trailer got me so excited for And Just Like That. We see you say "aw" to Aiden's postcard to Carrie in the trailer. Do you support Aiden's 5-year rule and leaving Carrie waiting for him?
I know. Isn't that a funny little thing? Yeah, it's funny. I do not support that, me, Kristin. But Charlotte probably does because, you know, for Charlotte, she's just always optimistic. And I think, you know, when you've had this long history, which Aiden and Carrie have had. And obviously Charlotte believes in love. And Charlotte was pro big, as we know, but big is not here anymore, sadly. And that was obviously really hard for Charlotte also to watch Carrie go through. So I think that Charlotte would want Carrie to have love. And if Carrie tells her that that's with Aiden, I think Charlotte is going to support that because that's the kind of friend that Charlotte is. And I support Charlotte being that kind of friend. Me personally, I feel like it's kind of complicated and I'm not sure. So let me just say, that I really love this season and I hope that everybody else does. And it's super interesting writing. Like what they wrote, I think is very good. I really, really looked forward every week to seeing what they wrote and watching Sarah Jessica at the read-throughs. And I can't wait to see the finished product. I haven't seen anything yet other than the trailer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen tiny bits and pieces when I had to go do ADR, which is like,
additional dialogue recording.
Thank you so much. Of course, you know that was fast, man. You're on it. We also call it looping, right?
Yes.
So when I had to go do that, I've seen tiny bits and pieces, but the whole trailer was more than I have seen. So I also was just like, what? I've got to watch this again. So that was exciting to get to see other people watching it as well. And obviously weighing in with all of their thoughts and opinions. And some of them are very strong, but we love that. Also, I mean, no offense, but we're not 20, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like why? 5 years. It's a long time.
Very long time.
Very long time to wait. So I agree, but I also feel like it's very hard to be, you're never really in someone's relationship, right? You don't really know. And I also do feel like Carrie really believes in love.
She does.
Easton's worn
crestfallen,
out.
I say that.
He's worn out, you guys. He's like, oh God, she does. Anyway, go ahead.
This question comes from me.
Ooh.
I'm putting it to the top of the pile. So I really enjoyed Carrie's podcast subplot as someone in the business. That was something I loved in season 1.
I'm glad you loved it. Wasn't that a nice studio?
It was a great studio. They had real microphones. Everything looked great.
Oh, it was a for real set.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, spoiler alert, the podcast goes away. Carrie starts her own at the end of season 2, or it's implied.
It doesn't seem to last.
Okay, yeah. I was curious. I don't know what the timeline is in terms of you filming, if you had started your podcast yet.
No.
Okay.
I hadn't. We were working when the idea came to me. And I was really excited and also nervous. And I mean, I might add, rightly so.
yeah.
Now that we're in it. But I was very much feeling like I needed to go check in with Michael Patrick and Sarah Jessica about it. So I talked to everyone on the phone. I had a really great talk with Amy Sugarman, our executive producer, and she's a super fan and really blew me off my feet, But then I thought, I've really got to make sure that everybody feels good about this because I only want to do it if everyone feels good about this.
Yeah.
So I think which one did I go to first? I think I went to Sarah Jessica first. And she immediately was on board and really supportive and very cheerleadery. Then I went to Michael Patrick. He had done last year the Writers Podcast that was on the Max channel.
Yeah, the companion podcast.
Exactly, the companion podcast, which was very much about the writer's room and the writer's process. And it was great. But it
very
was
compelling.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I mean, I didn't want to tread on his area or whatever.
Yeah.
He 100% was on it. Obviously, we're rewatching Sex and the City, and just like that we do mention it, obviously. But he came up with the title, Are You a Charlotte? 2 sentences into my explanation, very hardcore supporter. And Cynthia was very low key. Cynthia and I almost did a podcast many years ago.
Whoa.
Right after, I know this is the 3rd podcast that's been brought to me. And it was just weird timing too, I think. And in some ways I just didn't have my mind back around it. The podcast that Cynthia and I were going to do, then Willie and I were going to do, which was all before, and just like that got greenlit.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was different to think about reflecting back on the work without us also getting to make fresh work.
Yeah.
And I think somehow getting to reconvene and be together gave me kind of the grounding to be able to look back and not just feel like I was living in the past.
Yeah.
Because that had been my fear. But I don't feel like that at all because obviously things are so different. It is like looking in a time capsule. it's really interesting. So we were towards the end, we were almost done, and I just went to them and they were immediately on board. So then I was like, okay, go, let's go.
I was wondering like if you had been doing it and then like there's a podcast thing in the script or something, like, well, that's not how it's actually done, because I have a podcast.
Oh, I would never. First of all, I think everyone at this point has been on a bunch of podcasts.
That's true.
And Bobby Lee has a podcast.
Yes.
And, the thing that I think was funny was that when we saw the set, we were like, this is the most glamorous podcast set we have ever seen. Like, who gets this?
Yes.
And obviously not me. Though we are now in a very glamorous green room. So you guys are moving us up the ladder over here at iHeart.
We'll get there someday.
Okay, great.
This is Courtside with Laura Carenti, the podcast that's changing the game and breaking down the business of women's sports like never before. I'm Laura, the founder and CEO of Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment, your inside source on the biggest deals, power moves, and game changers, writing the playbook on all things women's sports. From the heavy hitters in the front office to the powerhouse women on the pitch, we're talking to commissioners, team owners, influential athletes, and the investors betting big on women's sports. We'll break down the numbers, get under the hood, and go deep on what's next. Women's sports are the moment, so if you're not paying attention, you're already behind. Join me courtside for a front row seat into the making of the business of women's sports. Courtside with Laura Carenti is an iHeart Women's Sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. Listen to Courtside with Laura Carenti starting April 3rd on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Presented by Capital One, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports.
Hey, I'm Dr. Maya Shankar. I host a podcast called A Slight Change of Plans. I started this show because unexpected change comes for all of us, and there's no set playbook for how to deal with it.
I have all of this psychological baggage that I'm carrying with me, and the last thing I want to do is to pass that on to my daughter. So I have to figure this out. This puzzle of my trauma. I have to figure it out, and I have to figure it out now.
Join me this season when I talk to Amanda Knox about her choice to reconnect with the prosecutor who helped put her behind bars.
This is not about him. This is about me and what I am capable of giving. And I know that I am capable of being kind to this man. And by God, I am going to do it, and no one can stop me.
Listen to A Slight Change of Plans on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Ever wonder what it would be like to be mentored by today's top business leaders? My podcast, This Is Working, can help with that. Here's some advice from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, on standing out from the leadership crowd.
Develop your EQ. A lot of people have plenty of brains, but EQ is, do you trust me? Do I communicate well? When you walk in a room, do people feel good you're there? Are you responsive to people? Do people know you have a heart? Develop the team, develop the people, create a system of trust, and it works over time.
I'm Dan Roth, LinkedIn's editor-in-chief. On my podcast, This Is Working, leaders like Jamie Dimon, Mark Cuban, and Richard Branson share strategies for success and the real lessons that have shaped them. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The best things in life are on the other side of difficult conversations, but most people avoid them, staying silent, missing opportunities, and holding themselves back. I know this is true because I used to be one of those people. As a kid, I struggled to fit in and I was afraid to speak up. That fear followed me into adulthood until I realized something powerful. Negotiation isn't a talent, it's a skill anyone can learn. And it starts with negotiating with yourself, breaking through fear, self-doubt, and the limits we place on ourselves. Now I help people from all walks of life, whether it's people closing multi-million-dollar deals, parents setting boundaries, students finding their voice, or professionals advancing their careers. If you want to handle tough conversations, get what you deserve, and take control of your future, this podcast is for you. I'm Kwame Kristin, host of Negotiate Anything, the #1 negotiation podcast in the world, where you'll learn one simple truth. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Listen to Negotiate Anything on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
This question comes in from someone. It was mentioned. If you ask this question, I'm sorry.
Who will not be named. Let's
Anonymous,
hear it. Oh my
yes.
God.
It was mentioned earlier in your episode with Michael Patrick that the writers intentionally didn't have anyone from the girls' families and outside world come into the story, but for fun, what do you think Charlotte's life was like growing up?
That's cute. I do think it also in this finale, don't I mention something about sororities? I mean, I think she went to Smith. We know this. I think she was in sororities. I think I say it. We know she was a teen polo model at the mall. I believe somewhere, I feel like, maybe I made this up, that she grew up in Connecticut, which I think makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I made it up.
Connecticut?
Okay, are you Googling me?
I'm Googling. I have a computer in front of me.
Are you seeing anything?
Yeah.
Really?
Raised in Connecticut. I don't know the exact city or township.
Yeah, because I don't think I know. So I'm not surprised that Google doesn't know if I don't know.
Here we go. Early life. We should have gotten a Young Charlotte show on HBO. That should have happened. Wealthy family in Connecticut. She was a member of Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. She's the newest friend of the group.
That is true because they have a flashback to the 80s and I'm not there.
That's right.
That's when Carrie wears that pink cowboy hat. Yeah, they're at some kind of a, like, it looks like a college party, but I'm not there. I don't know if they're in college or not, but yeah.
In the second movie, they confirmed that you met Carrie in 1987.
Oh, well, okay.
Only at the most a year before Samantha. Oh, okay. Now things are getting kind of iffy.
Meshed up, yeah.
But that means there's a blank slate for what early life Charlotte could be.
I think we've now, done our due diligence on trying to figure out the roots of Charlotte. And, that has been like a side thing of the podcast that has really been so helpful for me because we've gotten confirmation from Candace Bushnell that she was not based on anyone in particular. We've gotten confirmation from Michael Patrick that when he first got there, he thought, I don't know how to write for that character. I mean, we've gotten a lot of interesting confirmations of what I was feeling at the time, which was that she didn't have kind of the same fleshed out storylines that the others had. And I had a lot of anxiety about that. And now I have a lot less anxiety. Obviously, it's 30 years later, but also because now I know that, no, that was all actually real. And they just created me as we went, which what a lucky person I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, what a fantastic situation to find yourself in. Slightly scary at the time because when you've been an out of work actor for roughly a decade, or a little bit less than a decade, you're very vulnerable about it all, right? And you want to make sure you have a place in this thing that you want to be a part of, which I did feel on the set, right?
Yeah.
But when I would go home and think about who is Charlotte? I don't know because they didn't know.
Yeah.
So, you're kind of making it up as you go. And then as we found out from Jenny Bix grew up on the Upper East Side. So when Jenny Bix came, I feel like Charlotte got a lot more kind of depth and grounding in the world that we were in because Jenny brought that.
Yeah. I was thinking about as an actor, you obviously want as much information as possible about the character. But if you get a Bible or something of their whole entire life, that must be intimidating too, to like make sure you know.
Well, first of all,
or...
it never happens. Second of all, I mean, I do know actors that create that Bible, and they might, depending on the situation, they might create it by themselves, or they might create it with an acting teacher, acting coach, or if they're really close to the showrunner or the writers, they might create it together. But it's a rare thing. And I think with us, I mean, I don't think, we'll ask Sarah Jessica if she did that. I don't think she did that, but I think that Sarah Jessica already, because she was a New Yorker and she really was an it girl. She was a downtown it girl, which was a little bit different than Candace's version of the it girl, but she knew kind of the vibe. You know what I'm saying? She knew who these people were just from being in the Manhattan like nightlife, you know, I don't know if she would describe it that way, but you know, we'll ask her when we see her next week. But I think that she already had such a grounded sense of who they were and how they dressed and what they did. I so didn't have any of that. Like I had lived in New York already, but I was an out of work actor waitress. Very, very different life. Very, very different life. So part of me, I was just like, how do I do this? What do I do? What do I do? And in my mind, and this is what you do as an actor, you create the backstory that you need that helps you to understand who they were. So as I think I've said, I would just go up to the Upper East Side and I would just walk around the shops, walk up and down Madison Avenue and look at the women and look at their hair. Most of them had baby carriages. Some of them didn't. I'd look at their coats. I'd look at their bags. I'd try to look at how they walked and talked and if they were talking to somebody. You know, you're trying to pick up details and then you're making the facts up in your mind to back up those details. Did that make sense?
Yes. And I'm picturing you like walking up and down Fifth Avenue or Madison Avenue and like write like with like a notebook or something. That seems like something Charlotte would do.
It is something like Charlotte would do. I didn't have a notebook because I'm a visual memorizer. So I would have snapshots. I have snapshots when I tell you about it.
Wow.
Still in my mind of what I saw then, which is why I was trying to get her to grow her hair out and they had made me cut it. But you can see the progression during the first season. I'm like, look, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's almost to the place I want it.
This next question I love because my New York, I grew up on the West Coast and my New York like knowledge was Sex and the City and Seinfeld. That was it. You know?
And so different.
So different. But I was like, oh, Seinfeld's the cartoon version. Sex and the City is what it's really like.
Wow.
And so this question is
so sorry.
Do you think Sex and the City shows a realistic depiction of life in Manhattan?
No, unfortunately, no. I mean, I think it did for this tiny group of women, right? Because it was based on some real people. And as Candace told us, at one point when she was writing the column, Sex and the City, that was in the New York Observer, she was living in a doorman building. So she was obviously doing well. I mean, I didn't have the thought to ask her, like, were your parents helping you or whatever? I mean, I think it's possible, right? I don't know that or not to be true, but I do think that a lot of these people came from generational wealth and were thus at a certain point in New York society that would come with generational wealth. But we don't really say that in the show either, you know?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
interesting.
Because like Samantha can afford, like I don't have a doubt that Samantha can afford her life.
Right. Well, she has her own PR firm.
She has her own PR
right.
firm.
And Miranda's a
lawyer.
Yeah, trying to be a partner.
Carrie's the baffling one.
Well, Carrie's the baffling one, and this will become an issue, as we know, right? Carrie's the baffling one. And Charlotte, I do think that in my mind, she was supported by her parents, you know, that because all of, well, at the time at least, the beautiful young girls who were working at the galleries were all supported by their parents.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't really be like kind of an assistant at an art gallery and make a living. Like it's a tough kind of a job, but yet there are still gorgeous young people, men and women, who are doing that. And I don't know how that we should call them up. I should go to some art galleries next time in New York.
Yes.
Ask them. I should do some research. But yeah, I think that there is a assumption that parents were helping or there was trust funds or something. Yeah. But Charlotte doesn't ever mention a trust fund, which I find interesting because I always thought there was like some money, but not a lot of money because once we get to the Trey era, you know, obviously she wants that apartment. Like there's things about him that he has that she really loves.
This is Courtside with Laura Carenti, the podcast that's changing the game and breaking down the business of women's sports like never before. I'm Laura, the founder and CEO of Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment, your inside source on the biggest deals, power moves, and game changers, writing the playbook on all things women's sports. From the heavy hitters in the front office to the powerhouse women on the pitch, we're talking to commissioners, team owners, influential athletes, and the investors betting big on women's sports. We'll break down the numbers, get under the hood, and go deep on what's next. Women's sports are the moment, so if you're not paying attention, you're already behind. Join me courtside for a front row seat into the making of the business of women's sports. Courtside with Laura Carenti is an iHeart Women's Sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. Listen to Courtside with Laura Carenti starting April 3rd on the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Brought to you by Novartis, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports Network.
Ever wonder what it would be like to be mentored by today's top business leaders? My podcast, This Is Working, can help with that. Here's some advice from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, on standing out from the leadership crowd.
Develop your EQ. A lot of people have plenty of brains, but EQ is, do you trust me? Do I communicate well? When you walk in a room, do people feel good you're there? Are you responsive to people? Do people know you have a heart? Develop the team, develop the people, create a system of trust, and it works over time.
I'm Dan Roth, LinkedIn's editor-in-chief. On my podcast, This Is Working, leaders like Jamie Dimon, Mark Cuban, and Richard Branson share strategies for success and the real lessons that have shaped them. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The best things in life are on the other side of difficult conversations, but most people avoid them, staying silent, missing opportunities, and holding themselves back. I know this is true because I used to be one of those people. As a kid, I struggled to fit in and I was afraid to speak up. That fear followed me into adulthood until I realized something powerful. Negotiation isn't a talent, it's a skill anyone can learn. And it starts with negotiating with yourself, breaking through fear, self-doubt, and the limits we place on ourselves. Now I help people from all walks of life, whether it's people closing multi-million-dollar deals, parents setting boundaries, students finding their voice, or professionals advancing their careers. If you want to handle tough conversations, get what you deserve, and take control of your future, this podcast is for you. I'm Kwame Kristin, host of Negotiate Anything, the #1 negotiation podcast in the world, where you'll learn one simple truth. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Listen to Negotiate Anything on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, K-pop fans, it's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you something epic. Introducing the K Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music reviews, exclusive interviews, and deep dives into the industry like never before. From producers and choreographers to idols and trainees, we're bringing you the real stories behind the music that you love. And yeah, we're keeping it 100, discussing everything from comebacks and concepts to the mental health side of the business. Because K-pop isn't just a genre, it's a whole world, and we're exploring every corner of it. And here's the best part. Fans get to call in, drop opinions, and even join us live at events. You never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K Factor on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. Are you ready? Let's go.
I'm Israel Gutierrez, and I'm hosting a new podcast, Dub Dynasty, the story of how the Golden State Warriors have dominated the NBA for over a decade.
The Golden State Warriors, once again, are NBA champions.
From the building of the core that included Klay Thompson and Draymond Green to one of the boldest coaching decisions in the history of the sport.
I just felt like the biggest thing was to earn the trust of the players and let the players know that we were here to try to help them take the next step, not tear anything down.
Today, the Warriors dynasty remains alive, in large part because of a scrawny 6'2" hooper who everyone seems to love.
For what Steph has done for the game, he's certainly on that Mount Rushmore for guys that have changed it.
Come revisit this magical Warriors ride. This is Dub Dynasty.
The Dubs Dynasty is still very much alive.
Listen to Dub Dynasty on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What do you think Charlotte's attachment style is. And there's a...
I looked at this list.
You looked at this list? Okay.
Because my first thing I thought was she's secure attachment, because that's definitely where she's at now with Harry. But then I was like, ooh, wait,
she wasn't for
maybe
a long time.
maybe not. Then isn't there one that's like anxious attachment?
Anxious, preoccupied attachment.
I think probably that.
That's what I would guess too.
Yeah,
a style
certainly.
where people have a fear of abandonment and a constant need for reassurance.
Right, but that makes it sound so awful. But I just really think that's like human normalness. I don't know. Maybe that's saying a lot about me. I don't know. I just feel like people, especially when you're younger, you know, like, because obviously in the first season, Charlotte very much like believes in love and wants to get married, and she puts that right out there. But she's also kind of choosy in an interesting way. But I do feel like she definitely wants to know, you know, like wants to be attached and wants affirmation of that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Hard to be objective sometimes.
It is. This question here, what is the process like prior to shooting an episode with fittings and picking out the looks for the episodes?
Oh, yeah, it is a process. Let me tell you. First of all, as I think you know, we're very, very, very spoiled. We have just the most incredible costume department and costume designers. Molly Rogers, who I had on, that was so much fun. And Danny Santiago works with her. He's also amazing. He has like a vintage world at his fingertips that you would not believe. And we have many and many other people. And all through the show, we had so many people helping, and eventually so many designers lending us things, which was great. The only downside is that we spend a lot of times in fittings, like a lot, like hours and hours. I don't know. Like I think I've had an 8-hour fitting.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's part of the job. And, you know, luckily they really make it fun. I mean, if you were trying to do 8 hours of like suits because you were a lawyer, that would be super boring. But because we have this like full fantasy world that we're creating, I mean, I am my own character within that fantasy world, right? So sometimes I walk in the other character, they do it by areas, right? So there'll be a LTW character. Yeah. Aisle, and I'll walk down that aisle. I'll be like, I want all this stuff. I can't have that stuff. I can't even pull that stuff off. I mean, she does it, and she does it so beautifully, but it's really fun to walk down there. Or sometimes I'll go in Carrie's aisle because we have the same size foot.
Oh, trivia.
Yeah, so I'll be like, does she have these slotted for an outfit yet? And they'll be like, get out of there, Kristin. You know, it's fun. And then sometimes there were times in the past where at the end of the season, I would take home some of Miranda's clothes because they were like really wearable everyday clothes.
Yeah, they look super comfy.
Totally super comfy, nice fabrics, good colors, turtlenecks and things. I still wear some of them. But yeah, Samantha's clothes couldn't pull those off either. But it is fun, but it's a lot of work. I remember also when we were doing the show, there was never any time for fittings because we were working so hard in such long hours. And I do remember, I might have mentioned this with Molly, that one time when I wrapped at 2 a.m., they said, you have to go to your fitting. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. And they're like, no, you have to go to your fitting. And I was like, you guys, oh, the pain. But there was just no other time to do it. So we did it.
During the fittings, like the wardrobe people are there. I assume there's a producer or someone there.
No.
Who is giving the who's giving the feedback, I guess, on what you're going to use? Is it like do you have how much say do you have as the actor? Like, oh, I really like this. I think we should use this one.
Well, in our world, we have a lot of say.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, as we have for a long time, you know, I mean, I've always said that we've always been very involved in all of it. And I have felt that even when we had no title, you know, like now we're executive producers of And Just Like That, but we used to not have any title, but it didn't mean that we weren't involved. Michael Patrick would sit us down before the season started and run through everything with us and say, what do you think? Like, he did not have to do that. And he did that, which is part of the reason that we have the relationship that we do, is that I really felt that we were respected and considered all the time. But with the clothes, I think, so Pat was very strong, right? Like she was very strong. And occasionally she would try to talk me into things that I was like, I just do not think Charlotte would wear this. And she would try for weeks, okay? Sometimes she'd go over my head to Darren. I'd be like, Darren, she can't wear it. It just doesn't make sense. You know, because Pat's very fanciful and doesn't really care about real life, you know, and that's kind of the joy. But also sometimes if you're playing Charlotte, you kind of gotta care about real life a little bit. But often, sometimes too, she'd say like, look at this. And you'd look at it and you'd be like, God, I don't know. And then like over time, she'd wear you down. You know what I mean? But it's always a group decision in the fittings. Now, we also photograph everything. And we also, you know, we're going in the script order. So like this is true for all production. I think you have the script. Someone in the costume department has done a breakdown. So every scene is listed with a description. You know, they're at the coffee shop. Charlotte says she's come from work. Something like that. Something very practical, like so that you know if there's something that affects her clothing in the scene, right? Then, you know, they will have already thought about, let's say it's a coffee shop scene. Those are the hardest because everyone's in it, right?
Yeah.
So they have to think about the colors and the textures and the daytime or the nighttime or the cold or the heat. Theoretically, it might not match the actual real cold and the heat and the real temperatures out in the world, right? But in the story, what season is it? And so they'll have an idea. Maybe they've done Cynthia's fitting already, but they haven't done Sarah Jessica's fitting, and they haven't done Nicole's, and they maybe have done Sarita's, right? They can show you a picture. Oh, Sarita's wearing, you know, cream silk. Cynthia's wearing these bold stripes. So we were thinking for you, they'll have pre-thought out ideas. So they'll have maybe like 10 things there, like separates or a dress or pants or whatever. And they'll say like, oh, this might be a great time to wear some pants. You know, Charlotte doesn't wear a ton of pants, right? Yeah. Oh, this might be a great time to wear some pants because blah, 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 whatever reason. Or we found this amazing jumpsuit or whatever it is, right? So they have some ideas. And then you pick the one you like the best. You try it on. It might not fit. It might be a color that doesn't work on you, whatever. You move on to the next. Or maybe you think, oh, this is so amazing. Let's put it at this dinner scene, which is a little bit more glamorous, and this outfit is a little, you know, it's like this. And then eventually, once you get your picks for each thing slotted in, they've photographed everything, they've listed everything. Usually almost everything gets to be altered, which, you know, I think is an important point. Yes. We're super spoiled, but like that's why it all fits us. It's not like if we went to the store and pulled things off the shelves that they would fit us like that. It would not be true. Yeah. At least for me, I can only speak for myself. But our tailoring department is unbelievably talented. Like they do so much work. Adrian, thank you. So then there are pictures slotted in and they make a book. So for each scene, let's say that all 4 of us or 5 of us are in a scene, there'll be everyone's picture. So you see them together. And then let's say it's like Harry and Charlotte. They'll have a picture of Evan and I in the outfits. Then Michael Patrick or whoever's directing, and Michael Patrick also, because he's executive producer, will look at it and approve it. Because maybe the director had a vision, like when Cynthia directed, and I can't remember if we talked about this or not. Cynthia directed, I want to say the second season when she directed, and she did this really funny thing where I was in my fitting, and she just walked by the door because our production offices are upstairs and our fitting is in the second floor. She walked by the door and she was like, oh, you're in here. And I was like, yes. So she was like, let's see. And I was like, okay. And she said, you know, in this particular scene, I just really pictured you like a fawn. And I was like, you mean like a deer? Huh. She said, yes, like, you know, like a doe-eyed fawn. I was like, okay. And Molly and I were like, oh my God. So then we're like, what does that mean? What does that mean when she left the room? And we got out like a kind of a fawn colored sweater. And I pulled my hair back and I kind of put on really long eyelashes to try to like be like
Bambi herself.
Right? I was going for Bambi.
The consummate professional, Kristin Davis. Thank you so much for answering these questions. For
that
doing
was easy.
This.
Thank you, Easton, for delivering them in such a lovely way.
Oh, it's my honor. This has been so much fun.
It is fun. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
We just kind of knew from the beginning that we were family.
They showcased a sense of love that I never had before. I mean, he's not only my parent, like he's like my best friend.
At the end of the day, it's all been worth it. I wouldn't change a thing about our lives.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Ever wonder what it would be like to be mentored by today's top business leaders? My podcast, This Is Working, can help with that. Here's some advice from Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, on standing out from the leadership crowd.
Develop your EQ. A lot of people have plenty of brains, but EQ is, do you trust me? Do I communicate well? Develop the team, develop the people, create a system of trust, and it works over time.
I'm Dan Roth, LinkedIn's editor-in-chief. On my podcast, This Is Working, leaders share strategies for success. Listen on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bob Pittman, Chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. I'm excited to share my podcast with you, Math and Magic, Stories from the Frontiers of Marketing. This week, I'm talking to the CEO of Moderna, Stéphane Bancel, about how he led his team through unprecedented times to create, test, and distribute a COVID vaccine, all in less than a year.
It becomes a human decision to decide to throw by the window your business strategy and to do what you think is the right thing for the world.
Join me as we uncover innovations in data and analytics, the math, and the ever-important creative spark, the magic. Listen to Math and Magic, Stories from the Frontiers of Marketing on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, K-pop fans, are you ready? It's your boy Bomhan, and I'm bringing you the K-Factor, the podcast that takes you straight into the heart of K-pop. We're talking music, idols, exclusive interviews, and even the real behind-the-scenes K-pop stories. Plus, you, the fans, you're part of the show. And you can get a chance to jump in, share your opinions, and be part of the conversation like never before. And trust me, you never know where we might pop up next. So listen to the K-Factor starting on April 16 on iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This isn't just a podcast. It's a K-pop experience. Are you in? Let's go.
If money is a taboo topic and nobody wants to talk about it, how can we be educated on something we're unwilling to talk about?
April is Financial Literacy Month, and Black Tech Green Money is where culture meets capital. Each week I sit down with Black entrepreneurs and leaders to share their blueprint for building generational wealth through tech, innovation, and ownership.
Once we know more, we can have more. One thing we tell our clients is the more that you learn, the more that you earn, but you have to be willing to learn.
To hear this and more game-changing insight, listen to Black Tech Green Money on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.